Looks like we're ready. Okay, very good. All right, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, and thank you all for being here. Let me, if I may, give you an idea of what is occurring today. This is a press conference to announce the fact that the District Attorney's Office is going to court to stop the implementation of an unconstitutional and illegal law that robs Philadelphia voters, and only Philadelphia voters, of their votes. That ain't right. As you can see, we have not all 155,102 of those voters, but we got a lot of them right here. And I want to, on the one hand, acknowledge them so that those of you in the media are aware of the attendees we have, and then we will move to a series of speakers. And I will advise you as to who they are as well. I will speak briefly. John S. Summers, Esquire, of the law firm of Hangley, Aronchick, Siegel, Pudlin, and Schiller, who is the District Attorney's Office's lawyer for the purpose of this filing, which has happened already today, which calls upon the Attorney General not to implement this law and calls upon the courts to declare what we already know this to be, that this is an unconstitutional effort to erase 155,000 votes in just one place, and we'll get into the reasons. We have Council Member Nicholas O'Rourke, who is here, along with his colleagues, Council Member Jamie Gauthier and also Council Member Rue Landau. Council Member O'Rourke will wear a couple hats. One of them will be MC for some of the other speakers. After the council members have made their statements, we will hear from Sean Damon of the Amistad Law Center. We will also be hearing from Lorraine Hall, known to some of you as Miss Dee Dee, from the organization CADBI, C-A-D-B-I. And finally, we will hear from the Reverend Mark Kelly Tyler of the Mother Bethel AME Church and Bishop Dwayne Royster of Power in Philadelphia. For those of you who do not know what Power is, look it up. Power is a, how shall I put it, a gathering of some of the most forward-thinking and important congregations of faithful people of many different faiths in Philadelphia, and it connects to other groups around the country and around the world who are tremendously influential and very, very much dedicated to protecting people's votes. We have so many attendees here. Let me run through them quickly, if I may. We have the Reverend Jeanette Davis of Divas Ministries. We have Donald Reese, Chris Jimenez of Healing Communities, Pennsylvania. We have Imam Abdul Hali Hassan. We have Brother Jerome Loach, Rakia Lindsay of the Survivors Network, Rosalind Wachinich, Union Leader 274, one of the heavy union players that we have in the city of Philadelphia. We have Reverend Michael Robinson, Salim Holbrook of the Abolitionist Law Center is here. We Embrace Fatherhood, the organization is here. Gray Panthers, the organization is here. We have Dr. Chinchilla Junicia, who is here on behalf of the Right the Wrong Coalition and Be a Voice. We have the Reverend Dr. Sharon McLean of Black Clergy of Philadelphia and Vicinity. Eastern State Prison Historical Society is here. Melissa Robbins of the Urban League of Philadelphia is here. Herman Davis of an organization known as Peace and Love. We have Stephen Lazar, John Inn, Mary Kelly, Philly Truce. We have some exonerees and some exonerees to be who are here. Straight out the project. who are here in the support of the notion that elections should be free, they should be fair, they should be final. And they're also here to protect the notion that democracy matters everywhere, including in Philadelphia. So, you know, when I made the unexpected decision to run for DA in 2017, I thought that meant district attorney. I didn't know that DA actually stood for democracy advocate. Who knew? Who knew that what was actually going to happen around here was that we were going to end up in a country where there was a vigorous anti-democracy movement led by a criminal ex-president, and it was going to come up with a whole assortment of tactics to try to rob people of their votes. Good morning, Senator. Good to see you. So what are those tactics? Oh, I don't know. How about impeachment? Did you pick up the paper today? Did you see how there is an effort to impeach the Secretary of State? Is that what it is? For what? Well, it turns out for nothing, because that is what they're doing now. Similar to an effort to impeach Joe Biden. For what? Well, it turns out for nothing, because he has a son. Let's just say I have my own experience with an effort to impeach me, to impeach my office. For what? For our ideas and policies. And that impeachment came from people who don't even live here. They need a GPS to get here. I can totally understand why an upstate representative who's gotten about 12 or 13,000 votes and loves Donald Trump might want to erase 155,000, 102 votes in Philly, because those are not his boss's votes. I totally understand that. But none of that makes it okay. What is happening here straight up is an effort to normalize the false notion that impeachment, this is a way to get people out of office in between elections, they just keep winning, that impeachment means we get you out because we don't like you. Impeachment never meant that. Impeachment meant you committed a crime, and you got to go. Should I list Donald Trump's crimes?
We ain't got enough time.
We don't have enough time? All right. We won't list all of those crimes because I wouldn't even know where to start. There's so many of them. But you normalize that, and then you normalize something else. What's that? Selectively picking on the biggest urban center in Pennsylvania with the most diverse population in Pennsylvania, where the most votes for liberal candidates, progressive candidates, the Democratic Party are. I repeat, selective. This supposed SEPTA bill is not a SEPTA bill at all, as you will soon hear. This is straight up an effort to erase the votes of 155,102 people who struggled through the inconvenience of voting so they would be heard in an election that was won with a margin of 44%. That is what we are talking about. Yes. It is wearing a Halloween costume, and that Halloween costume is that it has something to do with SEPTA, but as you will soon see from the maps that we are going to show you, it actually means that almost all the criminal cases in the city of Philadelphia would belong to a special prosecutor who was elected by no one and didn't even run. Almost all of them. It is a Halloween costume. It's got nothing to do with SEPTA. This is 100% about eliminating, erasing, and normalizing the elimination and erasure of votes, normalizing overturning elections in between elections in ways that are completely anti-democracy. All right. Without my going on any further, it is my pleasure at this time to say a few words. First, John S. Summers, who is counsel for the DA's office on this matter, and then I will be calling up Council Member at Large Nicholas O'Rourke, who will take over the agenda. Mr. Summers.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
About 30 minutes ago, the District Attorney's Office filed a 50-page complaint in Commonwealth Court in its original jurisdiction. That complaint contends that Act 40, the law that was led by non-Philadelphia, middle-of-the-state legislators to strip this district attorney and this good office of the jurisdiction to prosecute crime within SEPTA. Now, for the purposes of today, I got three things I want to emphasize for everybody. First, that law is potentially of enormous scope. Ask yourselves the question, how big is SEPTA in Philadelphia? And you would answer that by there are 8,175 stops, bus stops, train stops, and the like. And when you read the bill, you ask yourself the question, well, what is the scope of the authority of this special counsel that's going to step in and prosecute the crime? Well, it's not defined in the statute. And when the lawyers do the lawyer work and try and figure out what it means because the statute doesn't define it, arguably, it looks like, from when you look at the case law, if you're within 500 yards of any of those 8,175 stops, that special prosecutor can come in and displace District Attorney Krasner and this entire office and prosecute the crimes. Now, how much of Philadelphia is left for this office? May I ask my colleague to show you? The lab of the district attorney's office did a map. It took the 8,175 stops. It put a 500-yard buffer. And all of the area in red would be subject to the special prosecutor, not the district attorney's office. Well, gosh, look at that. There's more red than there's anything else. 89% of the land area of Philadelphia, if this is the right explanation and definition, would be ceded out of the district attorney's office over to the special counsel. And if you don't just go by the land area, but you ask how many reported incidents are there that would be ceded over to the special counsel, it's 95%. So the first point I want you to understand is the enormous potential way in which this Act 40 can operate. Thanks, Andrew. The second thing, gosh, this law is unprecedented. We as lawyers went back and looked to try and find back to the founding of the Commonwealth, whether that's in 1681 or 1789, for anything like it. We looked to see whether there had ever been an effort like this one to try and strip an elected district attorney who's accountable to the people of the city of Philadelphia, where he's got the responsibility to prosecute those crimes and he's accountable to those people. Has there ever been an instance where a statewide legislature has tried to step in and outstrip the authority? And the answer was no. Why? Because basically the principles of democracy in this Commonwealth say that it's the county district attorney that's to do the prosecuting and the investigating of crimes in that county. It's not the business of other district attorneys or other special counsels to do it. There are really narrow exceptions. You know, if there's an ethics issue that requires the appointment of a special counsel, that's allowed. But there's nothing like it as sweeping as this. So what did we do earlier today? I told you we filed a 50-page complaint. That 50-page complaint details 7 different ways in which that law is unconstitutional. I will move quickly through those claims so you understand them. The first 3 claims essentially say the following. The Constitution doesn't allow the state or a statewide special counsel to divest and nullify this office and Larry Krasner of the territory he's responsible for and the functions that he's got to do. Now, this is important. Because the law treats Philadelphia different from other counties where there's SEPTA, Montgomery, Bucks, Delaware, but says if it's Philadelphia, that special counsel can run right over the district attorney's authority, while in the surrounding counties it needs those district attorneys' consent. That discriminates against the city of Philadelphia and its voters. Now, Pennsylvania has a constitutional provision. It's called the Equal Protection Clause. And Count 4, Claim 4, says that this law, which unequally treats the city of Philadelphia and its voters, violates the Equal Protection Claim. Now, I'll go through real quickly the remaining ones. You know, who's he accountable to? Exactly. Who's the special counsel accountable to? That's the essence of what Claim 5 is. We have an unaccountable, at least by statute, by the language of the statute, special counsel. And this is a responsible position that shouldn't have an unaccountable person. Count 6 is a little technical. There's a law in this Commonwealth called the Criminal History Record Information Act. It protects the privacy of people. It protects in a variety of specific ways. And what the complaint alleges is this special counsel can, without the safeguards of that statute, seek criminal protected information about people who are accused of crimes. Count 7 is, I would say, a real doozy. Look, what Count 7 says is the following. The Act, knowing probably it's so unconstitutional, says that someone charged by the special counsel is prohibited, that's a criminal defendant, is prohibited from challenging the law on the ground that the special counsel has no authority. Now, let's just sort of put aside that violates the due process rights of all the people who are charged. And you'd ask the question, why does this district attorney in this office bring that charge? Well, it's not just because he's got the responsibility of recognizing the due process rights of all the criminal defendants, but it's also, imagine how the Act, with this provision, will frustrate the very purpose of trying to prosecute the SEPTA crimes. Every person charged under the special counsel is going to have a defense that the special counsel doesn't have any authority. And every single one of them is going to be marching to every court, federal court, state courts, and saying that that criminal defendant shouldn't be charged because the Act is unconstitutional. That is no way to promote the efficient and just prosecution of people. That is slowing it down. That is preventing what actually this district attorney has been trying to do in charging and prosecuting SEPTA crimes. In the end, my friends, Act 40 about SEPTA is a constitutional train wreck. It is a tangle that cannot and should not be enforced, and that's why the district attorney has filed an action to stop seeking a court declaration and an injunction to prevent it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Summers. It is, in just 1 second, it will be my pleasure to introduce Councilmember Nicholas O'Rourke, who, like so many of us, wears more than one hat. He wears a clergy hat sometime, and he wears the city council hat now after a historic election. But I do want to point this out. Think about this for a minute. So, if our Attorney General follows this illegal law, this unconstitutional law, and appoints a special prosecutor, and somehow they get away with this nonsense, and that special prosecutor prosecutes a bunch of people, convicts some people, and then, because court challenges take a while to get to the court, the higher courts say what, in my opinion, they should, which is that this is unconstitutional, then you have a bunch of convictions that are going to be overturned. And they're not just going to be overturned, they are very possibly going to be overturned and untriable again. Because there has been an illegal prosecution by an authority who is not the constitutional prosecutor. These are fundamental violations that in many instances will be called prosecutorial misconduct, illegal conduct that cannot be retried. You could have a situation where rather than this office doing what it does, which is diligently prosecuting 92% of the cases SEPTA sends us, and that number is correct, and that number, by the way, is almost the same number as the 92% of the prior administration. Instead of our doing our job and doing it the right way and having convictions that stick, you could end up in a situation where the existence of the special prosecutor is a free pass for people who are committing serious violent crimes anywhere in and around this enormous area to get out of jail free and never go back. That is just one of the things that is at stake in this sweeping effort to erase Philadelphia votes. It is my pleasure to introduce Councilmember Nicholas O'Rourke, who will MC the remainder of this gathering. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Councilman Nick O'Rourke. The right-wing war on democracy continues, as we have heard this morning, and continues to wage war on our democratic rights as well as our pocketbooks. And we do have a few of our colleagues who are here with us today. First up to come talk with a little bit, we saw one of our leaders in the state Senate. Let's receive at this time State Senator Sharif Street to offer a few words. Thank you.
One, I thank everybody who came out. It's important that folks who are in the community understand what's going on, and so I appreciate all of your presence. For those who've been paying attention, there's no secret I believe this law to be grossly unconstitutional. Now, there are a lot of folks here, and I can talk about this a long time, but I'm going to try and be brief but be real clear. First of all, this bill didn't even follow the appropriate legislative process. It came through the Transportation Committee, and we have subject matter rules. So it was posing to be a transportation bill, but this is not a transportation bill. This is a bill about who gets to prosecute cases. It did not go through the Judiciary Committee. It did not go through the Law and Justice Committee. We got multiple committees where it would have been subject matter appropriate, but it didn't follow any of that because the maker, who's the chair of the Transportation Committee, wanted to send it through his own committee because he wanted to move it. Secondly, he claims, look, I don't manage to impugn the maker's character. However, the maker says that he's doing this just limited to Philadelphia because he's concerned about crime. That is the purported purpose of the bill. However, I want to point out that because there's this myth somehow that gets out there, this is all happening because Philadelphia is so dangerous, we have so much crime. The overdose rate, the level of drug activity in the maker's district per capita in many of his municipalities is significantly higher than Philadelphia, but he's not doing anything about that. He's to worry about the folks in his own district. Let's tell the truth, right? But sometimes people do things to distract from what's going on in their own district. So you got a guy represents Johnstown, represents an area where people are destitute, has no solutions for the problems in his own district, then wants to scapegoat people and focus on an area that is over 300 miles away from where he represents. So I need to put that out there. Second, additionally, I want to point out something else. Philadelphia is the most diverse county, has the most black and brown folks. And doing this, when all of the analysis that was provided by the previous speaker understood the courts should apply what's called strict scrutiny. That means that you have to have a really, really, really good reason to pass a bill that disproportionately impacts in a negative way people based on race or religion. Philadelphia has both more religious diversity and more racial diversity than any other county in the Commonwealth. And so this definitely does not meet strict scrutiny. It is unconstitutional. Yes. Additionally, it has to pass rational basis, meaning it can be clearly implemented in a way. Well, I have been explaining what my legal interpretation. I am a lawyer, and I've consulted with at least 4 or 5 lawyers who represent the Senate Democratic Caucus. I will tell you that there are different interpretations by all four sets of caucus lawyers that represent all 4 caucuses of the legislature that passed it. We, the legislature, cannot even agree on what the interpretation is. And the proof is the maker has gone on television on multiple occasions and said that he has a different interpretation than mine. So the caucuses that passed it don't even agree on the interpretation. And let's be clear, our statements are relevant. Legislative history is relevant in the interpretation of this. So I don't even think it passes a rational basis because there isn't a clear interpretation. And let's move on. It doesn't say in the statute what the jurisdiction is. It says, quote, in septa authority. I'm not even sure. That's not even proper grammatically. But that's literally the wording of the bill. And that is now the wording of the act. It's not even grammatically accurate. But because I'm not just picking on the grammar, I am a little bit, but I'm not just picking on the grammar exclusively. But that ambiguity in the failing grammar opens up interpretation as to what the boundaries are. But it does reference Title 22, and Title 22 then talks about policing powers. And then you get to something called immediate and adjacent. Immediate and adjacent is then referenced in about university police powers, and that's where you get the 500 yards. Guess what? Then somebody says, well, Senator, your analysis is convoluted. It's convoluted because the bill is, in fact, written in a convoluted way that references things that don't agree. So it doesn't pass rational basis because it cannot be interpreted. And finally, and I could go on, but finally, this is my last point I'm going to make. It actually makes us unsafe in a number of ways because it is unclear who has jurisdictional authority to move forward. The maker has suggested that it creates concurrent jurisdiction, which means that both the DA and the special prosecutor could pick. But the clear language of it suggests superseding jurisdiction, meaning that only the DA can proceed after seeking some kind of authority from the special prosecutor. And then it says that the Attorney General, who has to appoint it, cannot use Commonwealth funds to pay for any of it, that City of Philadelphia funds, but there is no mechanism for the City of Philadelphia to make that payment, which is also unconstitutional. But because at a minimum, they'd have to use constitutional funds, and then it would have to be reimbursed. But it doesn't. But it specifically in the statute does not allow for that. So I don't even know how the Attorney General will go about hiring a person and then tell the city, "Oh yeah, y'all add them to the payroll," because it makes no sense at all. It is a stupid bill that was written in a way that is discriminatory. It has a discriminatory effect on the most diverse county, both ethnically, racially, and religiously. Yes. And moreover, it is written with specificity to do that because it seeks to address a problem around SEPTA. But a person who gets on SEPTA doesn't have to check a border wall going between Philadelphia, Montgomery, Delaware, or Bucks or Chester counties. But that person who is so dangerous that they require a special prosecutor on the Philadelphia side doesn't get off the train, doesn't get off, the people are there, rides over on the Montgomery County side, and now there's a different methodology for the prosecution laid out in the bill. The only difference between those counties is the density of the population and the diversity of the population. And the diversity of the population is extremely constitutionally relevant. This bill is unconstitutional on multiple grounds. All 7 of the bases in the litigation moved forward with by the district attorney's office are accurate. But I'm giving you some additional background information as to why this was done. Now, how did we get here? It was a rushed bill. Why was it rushed through? It was rushed through because anyone knew that if you took any time to really look at this bill, it wouldn't even pass either chamber. It was rushed through. Why was it sent through the wrong committee? It was sent through the wrong committee because sending it through the wrong committee reduced the threshold for a review of it. So you didn't have to have the people who have the subject matter expertise looking at it and writing it. And then it was passed despite that, it was passed. And now it sits there, and we are all subject to it. It will make us unsafe. It is unconstitutional. It was poorly written. And finally, it violates the separation of powers because it seeks to, the legislature cannot specify that the judiciary can't review our work. That's why we have a court. So writing a provision to say that the courts can't review our work, if we had that power, that would be utterly absurd. It would frustrate the existence of the judiciary itself. Because we could put in every bill, and by the way, we passed this bill, we the General Assembly, and we think that we're so great that nobody gets to overlook at our work. That's not the way separation of powers works. We have 3 co-equal branches of government. We have an executive branch on which the legislature is now infringing its power. We have because the district attorney is an executive official, and we have a judicial branch that has the power to review our work. Nothing we do can take away the judiciary's power in that regard. And so why would you say that knowing that? You would say that because you already know that what you did don't work. You already know what you did don't work, so you don't want anyone to look at it. And you're saying, please, please don't look over here because I know I didn't do what I was supposed to do. I encourage additional groups to continue to file amicus briefs, file your own challenges, file citizen challenge, file group challenges. This cannot stand. If it is allowed to stand, it sets up a precedent that will allow the legislature to continue to attack and strip away the rights of Philadelphians in a racially biased, inappropriate, unconstitutional, unlawful, and stupid way.
All right.
Well, the senator certainly said what he said. But I do hope that we all heard that. Unconstitutional, unsafe. And let's talk a little bit more about the ways that it's unfunded and it costs us money. We are joined here by my colleagues in Philadelphia City Hall. First up to share with us, please welcome at this time, Councilmember Jamie Gauthier.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm very proud to stand here today with District Attorney Larry Krasner and many, many community leaders across Philadelphia against yet another MAGA attempt to undermine our duly elected district attorney and disenfranchise Black and brown voters here in Philadelphia. I think everybody in this room would acknowledge that there are issues that we need to resolve with our public transit system. Frankly, they're the same issues mirrored in the city writ large that we've been dealing with for the last several years. And all of us are personally invested in resolving those issues. For myself, I represent a district where people are disproportionately reliant on SEPTA to get around and to get to and from work. I have a teenage son that rides SEPTA every single day to get to and from school. And so we are personally invested in making sure that we have the public transit system that our residents deserve. But we should not pretend that Act 40 is about crime or public safety at all. Because if it was, we would have seen the same GOP actors leading this effort fully fund SEPTA. If it was about, crime and public safety, we would have seen those same actors put forward common sense legislation to reduce the supply of guns on the streets of Philadelphia.
That's right.
So this is not about crime or public safety, and I don't believe at all that these GOP legislators care about the victims of crime here in Philadelphia. They don't know our communities. They don't know our people. Meanwhile, everyone standing here today is personally invested in this issue. The victims of crime here in Philadelphia are our neighbors and our friends and our constituents, right? And so you have this bill that's about nothing more than political theater. And then to add insult to injury, they've charged the city with paying for this special prosecutor, which undermines council's constitutional authority to allocate the hard-earned taxpayers of the citizens of Philadelphia for the things that we really need in our city. And so, I am here today to also say that SEPTA is incredibly important to the city of Philadelphia. It's important to our economic growth. It's important to our residents' ability to get around. But Act 40 doesn't make SEPTA better in any way, right? Making SEPTA better is about supporting SEPTA. Making SEPTA better is about fully funding SEPTA. Making SEPTA better is about, coming to the table with real solutions. And so I am here to support our district attorney, and I pray that this legal challenge is successful against this racist, undemocratic law. Thank you so much.
All right.
So grateful for those words as well. We are joined also by our colleague, Councilwoman Rue Landau.
All right.
Good morning, everybody. I'm not going to add too much more to what my wonderful colleague said and to what our State Senator Sharif Street said as well, but I do want to add just two important points just to underscore them again. One, there is no doubt in my mind that this law is unconstitutional, and I look forward to the courts affirming that for us, right? That's what they're there for. They're going to do their job. They will come down with a decision that calls this law unconstitutional. But at the bottom and the base of this, what is extremely important is to look at the precedent that this is going to start for years to come. And we're about to go into a very important election with people out in Harrisburg who seem to think that Philadelphia voters can't help to maintain our democracy going forward on the local, state, or federal level. And they need to know from a decision from this court that showing that this is an unconstitutional act, that once again, they cannot try this again in the future. This is wasting our time. It is wasting our resources. And I want to also underscore that fully funding SEPTA, fully funding our neighborhoods, our schools, our rec centers, our libraries, giving people opportunities and good paying jobs and helping them get up and out of poverty and helping people maintain a thriving way of life. That is what is going to fix crime in our city. That is what is going to help SEPTA be a safer place for all of us. But this nonsense is going to get us nowhere.
All right. That's right. That's right.
It confuses our prosecutorial process and then calls all of the citizens of Philadelphia to foot the bill. This is egregious on a number of fronts. We are joined at this time now by a representative from the Amistad Law Project. Let's receive Sean Damon as he comes.
Hey, I'm Sean Damon with the Amistad Law Project. I'm here today to talk about two issues that, for anybody who's been paying attention, are deeply intertwined, and that's safety and democracy. Okay? In the same breath that this preposterous unconstitutional act was passed, we saw an underfunding of SEPTA. There's going to be a budget gap of 20% as the COVID relief funds dry up next year. That's going to mean service cuts. It's going to mean less resources for a system that desperately needs them. So I want to ask y'all, when a bus route gets shut down and a kid has to walk through a different neighborhood at night to catch another bus, what's going to happen? When people are on a bus and it breaks down and somebody misses a job interview and they're out of luck, how does that make us safer? Right? Or, God forbid that our fleet of buses, trolleys, trains are not maintained as they should be, and there's, an accident. This is what keeps us safe. Funding our city, funding us. This act is horrible, it's unconstitutional, and it's a political game. And I'm here to say political games do not keep us safe. And they especially do not keep us safe in this type of election year, when many of our lives and our very democracy is on the line. This is a right-wing attack, but I'm here to say it in a nonpartisan way. There are right-wingers in the Republican Party, and there are some right-wingers in the Democratic Party that voted for this, and they should be ashamed in this election year to have made that vote. Because what they're greenlighting is further shenanigans that will undermine the power of everyday people to govern over themselves and elect their own representatives. This is a disrespectful bill to everybody in the city of Philadelphia. I work primarily with people who have loved ones in PA state prisons. I've talked to them about what this reminds them of. Some have mentioned the SRC, the School Reform Commission, when Philadelphia Public Schools and our ability to run our own schools was taken away from us. But others, more frequently, have compared it to the action of the insurrectionists on January 6th, who, when they didn't get their way, tried to tear up all of our votes. So, to close out my remarks, I want to hand it over to someone who's near and dear to me, Miss Dee Dee, to talk about how this has impacted her and impacted her community. And I also want to thank every single politician in the General Assembly, especially Senator Street, who's here, who stood against this nonsense and stands for fully funding our city.
I don't know if it's still good morning, but still feels morning to me. It seems like it never ceased to amaze me how I feel like I'm jumping on this merry-go-round again. Because it seems like the world has their eyes on my city. The world is always picking on my city. And I notice it's always against Krasner. So you have to take a moment and think, Well, why is that? I'll tell you why that is. We got idiots that don't live here, that don't know us from here, want to run our place, tell us how we should vote, and yet their house is all messed up. It says in God's word, put order in your house first before you can come to my house and put order.
That's right.
Okay? And I'm going to say like before, my vote may be 1, but to me it's 1,000,000. And as long as this man is serving, I'm going to show up every time, me and my people, every time. And no idiot from somewhere else that don't know me from a can of dog food is going to come and tell me what to do with my vote. Thank you.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes.
Ms. Dede is a tireless advocate and continues to speak truth as always. We do have a few statements from organizations that are also as outraged as we are related to this matter. First, from the chair of Fifth Square, Steph Davis, who writes, "For years we have known about the impending transit funding cliff facing SEPTA and other agencies across our Commonwealth. Without help from Harrisburg, riders in our region will face massive service cuts and fare increases in the coming months, stranding thousands of riders, worsening traffic congestion, and hampering Pennsylvania's economic recovery from COVID. Pennsylvanians who depend on frequent and reliable service from SEPTA did not ask lawmakers in Harrisburg for Act 40. A politically motivated attack on Philly's democratically elected district attorney does not help SEPTA, its workers, or the nearly 700,000 riders who rely on the regional transit system every week. Fifth Square calls on Governor Shapiro and the Pennsylvania legislature to work together and immediately address SEPTA's $240 million operating deficit so that we can avoid service cuts that will harm the health, safety, and livelihoods of Pennsylvanians." Again, that was Steph Davis, chair of Fifth Square. We also have a statement from the Philly Transit Riders Union, who writes, "On December 14th, 2023, Democratic Governor Josh Shapiro signed into law Act 40, legislation designed by Republicans to disenfranchise Philly voters. The law allows PA Attorney General Michelle Henry to appoint a special prosecutor for mass transit for crimes occurring on SEPTA only within the city of Philadelphia. This law effectively denies Philly voters of their right to elect their prosecutor. The members of the PA Senate and the PA House who voted for this legislation do not believe that Philadelphians should have that right. We strongly believe that Governor Josh Shapiro should have been working hard to pass something that actually matters: funding for public transit.
Yes.
Transit riders statewide are waiting for the governor to sign into law legislation that will be transformative and life-changing." End statement. Again, that was the Philly Transit Riders Union as well. We have been joined not just by those within the political arena or those within our community grateful for their voices. We also add to them those of the faith community. We are joined by a number of faith leaders who are with us today. We want to receive now at this time my mentor and the executive director of Power Interfaith. Please put your hands together and receive at this time Bishop Dwayne David Royster.
District Attorney Krasner, one of my bosses is in the room, Imam Abdul Halim Hassan, co-board chair of Power, all of our religious colleagues, political leaders that are gathered in this place. I am grateful for all that have spoken thus far, but I am remiss to have to make the comments that I have to make at this time, because what I ultimately believe is that every Philadelphia citizen has been betrayed by the state legislature. We have been betrayed by the Democrats and Republicans that have voted for this legislation. We have been betrayed by the political leadership that signed this bill into law from both the House and the Senate and the governor's office. And what they have essentially said to every Philadelphian who is a voter and every Philadelphian that lives in the city of Philadelphia is that you're not smart enough to make the right decisions about criminal prosecution in the city of Philadelphia. So us folk, especially the one that put this bill in place who lives near Pittsburgh, that has gone and basically said one way or the other that you don't matter. This is a political attack against Larry Krasner, but it's also an act of voter suppression against the city of Philadelphia. In a very real way, it is making a statement that We don't want your votes. We don't need your votes, and we can live without your votes. And the reality is that that is not the case. Power Interfaith and the Power Action Fund, of which I serve as the executive director of both, have spent the last better part of a decade working on getting out to vote in the city of Philadelphia, in particular in black and brown communities. We have worked diligently to tell stories and to increase voter participation and get people to engage in getting active in the politics and the civic arena here in the city of Philadelphia. And in a matter of a vote that was taken by people who don't give a damn about Philadelphia, don't give a damn about Philadelphians, don't give a damn about the crime in the city of Philadelphia, we were betrayed by these acts. And I'm calling out every politician that signed on to this legislation. You have betrayed us. Yes. You have let us down. And then you, in a very real way, have basically said that you are not human enough to be able to have control of your own city. You are not human enough to be able to make decisions that make sense for your city. In my theological understanding, each of us is a child of God. And what you have just told us is that we are not the children of God and that we don't matter. So I'm standing here today with D.A. Krasner. I'm standing here as one who has been in conversation, taking a look at legal options that we have as an organization that has worked deeply to help people get to the ballot and to vote for whomever they choose, to be able to stand up and say, we will not tolerate this in the city of Philadelphia. And to furthermore say to others as well that if you continue in these practices of not looking at Philadelphians as humans, you ultimately will have to pay the price for that. That's right. Whether it's at the ballot box or at the bank or wherever it is, because we cannot tolerate people that will not respect us and respect what we want for our city. We have a duly elected district attorney by the citizens of the city of Philadelphia that is responsible for prosecution in the city of Philadelphia. That's our decision, and that's nobody else's. Thank you very much.
Joining this voice as well, we're grateful for the head of a pillar institution in the city of Philadelphia. It's actually dating back to the days of when we call ourselves the birthplace of democracy, back to the 1700s and some change. Let's receive at this time the pastor of the historic Mother Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church, the Reverend Dr. Mark Kelly Tyler at this time.
Mr. DA, first of all, I understand that this is the office that you can come to if you have a crime that you want to report.
Yes, sir.
So I have some missing property. It appears that my vote was stolen. And so I'm here today to say that I want to report that and get my vote back. I'm glad to stand today with a number of clergy who are here, including, as you already heard, Bishop Royster and Imam Halim Hassan, but others as well, like Reverend Clarence Wright, Reverend Greg Holston, Reverend Jimenez, Reverend Donna Jones, many of us who signed, over 67 clergy persons from the Philadelphia area that signed a letter and sent it to Governor Josh Shapiro and to Attorney General Henry demanding a meeting, because I'd like to know why someone that I voted for to protect my votes would do something that looks very much like January 6th. Right. Now, I know he didn't agree with January 6th because I heard him speak on it. Okay. And yet, for some reason, he felt comfortable enough to sign this bill. Right. Now, you know, I'm not going to go all Cat Williams. But I understand that there was some deal making, some horse trading. But why is it that the people who always get sacrificed are black and brown voters?
Come on.
That if there had to be a deal to be made about a budget or anything else to move legislation forward, why is it always at the expense of black people in the hardest hit communities? And yet, those same people will come to us in November of this year and say, we've got to rally together to go out and keep America free and safe. Well, you can't depress people's vote on the one hand and then expect them to turn out on the other hand.
Take your time.
And so this is not only anti-democratic, but it is also against everything you say that you stand for. That I expect Democrats to fight for people who voted for them, just like Republicans would expect them to fight for them. And we didn't send people to Harrisburg to go and be a Trojan horse, but instead we expect them to fight for us. And even if you can't stop it, you didn't have to sign it.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So the 67 of us are still waiting for our meeting with the governor, still waiting for our meeting with the attorney general. And we want to talk to them and hear from them about why they put us in this position now and why they are not the ones who are suing. In fact, as Bishop Royster said, I wanted to sue myself. And we kept seeking avenues in which we could do it as voters because I feel that I have standing. Why wouldn't I have standing? I voted for something. It's now been taken from me illegally, and people tell me I don't have standing to get it back. And so I stand in full support of D.A. Krasner's attempt to get our vote back. And let me just say this final thing. This is personal. For all of us, we all have our own story. But I'll bring my 5 times great grandfather into the room, who was born in Pennsylvania somewhere in 1818. I don't know where because the records of his birth were not kept. He became an AME preacher like me, and somehow found his way migrating to Little Rock, Arkansas after the Civil War, where he served as an election judge in the first election where black people could vote legally under federal law. Wow. In that election, it was stolen. Black voters who voted overwhelmingly for Thomas Bowles had their election taken from them, and it was given to someone who did not win. The good news is I found this out because his deposition is in the halls of Congress along with other people. And they fought for a year, and eventually they overturned it, and the rightful winner sat in that seat for the last year in Congress. What that reminds me is this is not new. January 6th is not new. The Civil War is not new. That people have always tried to take from us that which has been hard fought and hard won. People don't like Larry Krasner, quite frankly, because of the people you see standing up here now. People who have been incarcerated wrongfully, who've now been exonerated, people that have been consistently overcharged, the numerous stories of the Central Park 5, Philadelphia versions over and over. And we elect someone who will be fair to everyone. We're not asking for him to be fair just to us, fair to everyone. And once we do that, it makes some people 300 miles away uncomfortable. And so we're here to say that, as my great-great-great-great-grandfather said in the 1870s, when we fight, we win. We're here because when we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. And we're not leaving until we get what was stolen from us. Give us our votes back.
Amen.
We hope that the point has been made clear. What we are here standing for today is in support of the district attorney, the rightfully elected district attorney here in Philadelphia. And we need to make sure that, as we said in 2020, every vote is counted, and now they are free, fair, and final elections. At this time, let's receive again the district attorney of Philadelphia, the rightful one, D.A. Krasner.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Many thanks to everyone who has spoken and spoken so eloquently and I think so directly about what this issue really is. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge some of the other folks who are here. For example, and I know I'm going to miss a lot of you, so please forgive me. Bilal Qayyum is here. Reverend Donna Jones is here. And, of course, Senator Street's arrival and his passionate, wise words were not to be missed. Just a couple thoughts. And then what I will do is leave, because there should be a question and answer. But the question and answer should go to what the issue is here. The issue is not me. The issue is whether we are going to erase the votes of 155,102 people who voted on behalf of 1.1 million eligible voters in Philadelphia. That is the issue. These are the people who need your questions. These are the people who have your answers, because these are the voters who have been robbed and who are here to report the crime, as Reverend Tyler so eloquently put it, of having their votes swiped. Anybody here ever heard much about the main sponsor of this bill? Well, I'm not here to impugn characters either, so I will not attack him personally, but I will tell you some facts, and you can draw your own conclusion. The main sponsor of this bill, whose name is Langerloke, from the Johnstown area, represents a piece of 3 different counties. Those counties may hold more state prisons than any other chunk of this state. There are four state correctional facilities within his purview. And guess what they need? They need inmates. Not just the ones who should be there, not just the ones that we would send, but if they want to make money, support their tax base, and keep the diner open, what they need is more prisoners than this administration, which is trying to be fair, will send them. What does it mean to them? It means a whole lot. What we have experienced in Pennsylvania historically is that Philadelphia provided 23% of the state inmates. Well, the state prison population is going down. And when a county is going to make something like $60,000 a year per inmate, and get that money from the state, and they don't got coal anymore, and they don't have steel anymore, when that's what they're going to get, what does it mean to that county or group of counties with 4 state prisons to lose 1,000 inmates? 1,000 times 60,000 is $60 million a year. So if you are wondering why this individual doesn't want to talk at all about the problems at home, maybe he doesn't want to lock up his neighbors. Maybe he doesn't want to lock up his voters in an area that voted 71% for Donald Trump. Maybe what he wants to do is take people from a different place who are from different backgrounds and put them in those cells as a form of human commerce. Maybe that is what he wants to do. What this also reminds me of, frankly, on the eve of the MLK weekend, what this also reminds me of is really old American history. I know that Councilmember O'Rourke referred to Philadelphia being known as a tourist destination, the birthplace of democracy. Well, when we had an American Revolution, no matter how perfect or flawed, when we had it, there was a phrase that was used over and over: taxation without representation. Look at what is happening here. They will take inmates, especially the ones who don't need to be in jail, from Philadelphia. They will take taxes from Pennsylvania. They will even go so far as to raid our piggy bank. They will even go so far as to say, we're taking away powers from your elected official. We're going to take away your votes completely. But we are not going to give you representation. We want your money, we want your inmates, but we are not going to give you representation. That doesn't make us a city. That makes us a colony. It makes us a colony of Pennsylvania. We are not a colony. We are not here for your commercial exploitation, even if that is an exploitation in a commerce of human lives and human bodies. We are not here for that purpose. We are here to be treated equally like the rest of the state, to have every single one of our votes counted, and to uphold this democracy in the birthplace of democracy. And any elected official who will not stand up for that has violated the tradition of Martin Luther King. Any elected official who will not stand up for that is not a profile in courage, that is a profile in cowardice. Any elected official who will not stand up to that doesn't deserve to be an elected official. That's right. That's right. That's right. That is the truth. Yes. All right. Having said that, this is time for question and answer, and these are the voters who will give you your answers. Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Has anyone heard how the Attorney General is responding? Has she put out any statements? Has she went to the special prosecutor? Anything on those lines?
Why is he saying she?
The Attorney General at the beginning of the week advised the Attorney General of our position, asked the Attorney General to respond, let us know if they thought any of the analysis was wrong. We asked the Attorney General to hold off. The response has been, we're appreciative of the letter we got. We are reviewing the situation. There's a mandate to appoint a special prosecutor, and we don't know what our next step will be as to when or who we might appoint.
My understanding is the deadline for appointing the special prosecutor is like 2 days, right?
This Saturday.
What happens if they appoint the special prosecutor and there has been no action taken on your complaint?
The lawsuit is filed, and we'll address how we handle that. But the lawsuit is filed, and we're seeking to preserve where we are right now.
Have you had any conversation with the governor's office about that?
Not yet. Thank you.